Welcome to NovoEDTalks, where we reveal real-world strategies and expert insights from learning and development professionals. In every episode, we chat with practitioners, course designers, learning strategists, and business leads. We hear about their experiences in the learning industry and predictions for the profession and the trends that they're seeing. But before we get started, a little bit about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric, capability-building platform that combines social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. Through cohort-based experiences centered around human interaction, NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, Marriott International, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Now, let's meet our guest for today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast, a space for training trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I am the producer of the NovoEDTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Amy Ashley, who's the Director of Learning and Development at Caterpillar. Amy has spent her career in learning and development, helping people and organizations grow through creative strategies to drive learning. She's also active in her community, supporting cultural events and local history. Amy brings both professional insight and a passion for connection to everything she does. Amy, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate the chance to be with you.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start by just kind of introducing yourself a little bit more, your role and your company, and what it is you do?
Sure. Yes. Thanks. As mentioned, I work for Caterpillar, which is a global company, and an especially exciting time right now because we are celebrating our 100-year anniversary this year. So, a milestone in our history. And we serve many different industries. It would be hard to find someone who isn't touched in some way by the products and services that we offer. We cover construction industries, mining, energy, transportation, industrial, rail. So really a very wide breadth of industries and customers and customer needs that we serve. Our purpose is to help our customers build a better and more sustainable world. And we work to do that every day. My role is really designed to support all employees in having the skills necessary to do the work that is required to fulfill those business goals and customer needs.
Wow, that's incredible. And I love that mission, a better, more sustainable world. What a great thing to kind of be working towards. But speaking of, touching all of these different kind of industries with, I'm sure, different customer sets, why don't you talk about some of the different learners that you have within the organization and what challenges they face with meeting all of these different customer needs?
Yeah, it is a challenge with a very global company and 113,000 employees. Yes, that we serve.
Wow.
And my team has responsibility for employee development, executive development specifically, as well as organizational development. So all things related to culture and organizational design. So a pretty broad scope, and we are part of the enterprise human resources team. So that's kind of where we sit. Some of the challenges include, again, just reaching a very global and diverse audience of employees with a wide variety of needs. More than 60% of our employees work directly in a production environment. So that comes with its own challenges just in terms of time. And I think time is probably cited for everyone as a bit of a challenge in terms of making sure that we are setting aside for skill building and learning effectively and appropriately, really prioritizing time such that we spend it wisely on the things that are going to add the most value. In addition to that, I would say really understanding emerging and ever evolving needs of
Mhm.
our learners is it can be a challenge. It can be because we have to fulfill the requirements of the work that we have in front of us today, and work really hard to anticipate the needs next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. And it is a rapidly changing landscape. We hear a lot about technology and the use of technology and skill building in that area. And the complement to that, which are the human centered skills that we need to continue to focus on as well. So I would say, those are some of the big things that come to mind.
Sure.
And yeah, we work hard to stay on top of it.
Yeah, it's a lot for sure. How do you approach some of these challenges?
Good question. So we have instilled pretty deeply a sense and opportunity for employees to own their careers, to really own their development, an approach that says we've got a lot of programs, support. Our leaders are charged with helping employees, but it's really in each and every employee's hands to understand their own needs, and to seek out based on their career aspirations, based on what they know, and what they come into the company with, assessing for themselves what learning is necessary. So we have some basic required learning, of course, that is necessary for everyone. But beyond that, it's really learner led. And in doing so, it is our job to equip them with the tools to do a self analysis of their own needs. So, taking into account maybe performance reviews, feedback from a leader and or peers. What are their career aspirations and what does growth look like in their career? An honest evaluation and assessment of their gaps. So, how do we help them to have that kind of self reflection? All of those things go into the approach that we've taken in helping employees to think about, taking charge of their own learning, because they know best.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And I feel like it makes people more invested in it as well, right? I'm sure you see that, like where
Yeah,
they're wanting to take control of it and be like, okay, well, I'm seeing this. I want to get better in this X, Y, and Z thing.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And again, we've got a lot of different programs available. We've got a lot of things that they can draw from, but putting it primarily in their hands to assess that ownership does drive a lot in terms of accountability then on the back end for results of the learning that they're engaging in.
I'm sure. I love that. You mentioned just, the skill sets, not only with, tech rapidly evolving, but also just keeping it like human centered and making sure that we all have that skill set capability to keep it human centered as we're also learning these new technical skills. You know, all of that to say it's continuously shifting and evolving. What strategies does your team use to kind of ensure that the workforce does, remain adaptable and prepared for all of those changes?
Well, I would say one thing we do is we talk about it all the time. We also leverage not only formal learning but a lot of social learning as well. So how do we? The question for myself and my team is how do we ensure that we are instilling a culture of learning, which is agile and curious and focused on future growth, but also underpinned by the necessity of sharing what we know with others, taking advantage of the opportunity that we have by being an organization of such size.
Mhm.
We know that we have deep expertise within the company. Sometimes our role is creating the linkages so that people can find others who have the expertise from whom they can learn and develop and advance their skills and capabilities. Again, taking advantage of the expertise we have. I would say the other thing is really being very closely in tune with ensuring the learning that we offer is directly aligned to business needs. So getting closer to what are our customers expecting of us? How do those translate into business goals? And then using that as the platform and basis for designing learning according to those needs.
I love that. And I think that's so important, especially in a kind of industry or business model like yours, where you have so many different types of customers. You really need to stay in tune with that and kind of tie that back in to the business. I think that's great. Um, thinking about, especially where your programs are so kind of self-driven or learner-driven, how does your team assess and address skills gaps within the organization?
I love this question because we get it regularly. And in learning and development, there's always this challenge of how do you know that the learning has landed? How can you ensure that there is not only the direct learning assessment, but then the impact on the business that you intend? And I have learned over time to really start with the end in mind.
Mhm.
So when someone asks me, what is your assessment of the level of learning? My response is always, what is the impact that was intended from the beginning? So we design programs with that impact in mind. And that's the ultimate assessment, is have we met that criteria? So when people come to us and ask for something specific, it is designing around how close are we getting to meeting that specific need and supporting the business objective that is intended. Um, and so we do regularly within our programs, we will do a knowledge check or an assessment immediately. And sometimes it's necessary to think about both short-term and long-term assessment of impact. So if we've got a leadership development program that is intended to prepare leaders for the next level, how many of the leaders who are participating in that achieve that next level within a given period of time? So that's one example of looking at the outcome and then tracing back from there how we assess and evaluate the effectiveness. It's always going to be hard to tease out other factors that go into those broader objectives. But I think it gets us closer to accurately determining what is the impact of the learning versus something else.
Absolutely. To go, further into that question and your answer there, do you have any core KPIs for these programs, or kind of to what you're saying, does it change per the program and what the objective is, or how do you handle all of that?
Yeah, it really is by program. And so when we set objectives by the program, it would be, I fear it would water things down to have one broader, overall assessment. We certainly track a lot in terms of what are employees actively seeking on their own that we are not pushing, right? What are the skills that they are organically seeking to build? That helps inform us. I like to talk about, our strategy takes into account top down, bottom up, and outside in, all three of those factors. So top down might be, what is our strategy and what is our executive leadership team asking of all employees? Bottom up is, what are employees, again, on their own seeking to learn and discover? What content are they looking for of the libraries that we have available to them? That informs us. And then outside in is really, what are the external factors that we need to be paying attention to, including things like emerging technologies that will be critical to our success that we need to lean into and offer more skill building around. So trying to take that holistic view of all sides to drive our strategy and to direct our energy and attention towards the things that are going to have the biggest impact is really what we work to do.
That's awesome and so important. I think, obviously having some core KPIs or ways to measure the effectiveness of your programs, very important. But to get stuck on a specific metric can be sometimes detrimental to the programs and miss kind of the whole point. So I love that you're taking that, program by program, objective by objective kind of process.
Yeah, I'm big on both quantitative and qualitative measures of success. And so, in addition to numeric measures, I ask those who are seeking programs from us, what are the indicators that this is having the impact that you intend? So, what are the different kinds of questions that will be asked as a result of having a population of learners experience this program or this kind of learning? What are those indicators that tell us we're on the right track? Because again, sometimes it's going to be quite some time before we're really able to numerically assess the impact, especially when it's career planning or advancement in some of those programs. And so marrying both of those things, quantitative and qualitative, to me is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said just there about like the time, right? Where it's so many people launch like programs and are like, okay, 6 months, how are we doing? And it's like maybe, we always want to see those results like right away and like, is this working? Is it not working? But, you know, to make any big strategic decisions based off of the 6 months results might be more not to your benefit if you waited, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, to see what the actual results are. So I love that. That's such an important factor, I think. Could you do you have an example of a successful L&D initiative that you've or program like any type of learning program that you've implemented there that you could speak to that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I'll give you a recent example, one that we just did a couple of months ago. And I'll use this example because it does highlight a bit of the experimentation that we're trying to do, again, in terms of social learning. So we use Copilot, and AI is certainly a ubiquitous topic right now. It's everywhere. So many people are talking about how we use new technologies, emerging technologies like AI, both in service to our customers and our products, as well as internally. How can we become more productive and efficient, and really take advantage of these for all of us in so many different ways. And so my team put together a co-pilot challenge, and had really a social learning group. The intention was we hope to get maybe a few hundred up to 500 people. We actually got more than 3,000 engaged in this challenge in the month of August, and we had 20 prompts, one a day over the course of the month, so a 4-week period. But what I am especially proud of and was delighted to see was the engagement of participants in the challenge, sharing with each other what they were learning, different prompts that the ones that we offered suggested to them, how they were embedding this in their work, and really the willingness to experiment and get curious and share so generously with each other some of the outcome of that. So that's just one example where it's not a traditional program. It's not is signing up for a class or a course, whether online or otherwise, but engagement with employees that it's not all the learning that came from us. It's really as much the learning that came from all those who participated in sharing. That goes back to my earlier comment about kind of that knowledge sharing as a key component of what we try to leverage across the enterprise.
I love that. And I think that experiment, one, it's so amazing. It's awesome that you are experimenting with that, because I think we are starting to move away from that, especially with AI, move away from these like very rigid, structured L&D programs where it's AI is evolving so rapidly. We're all learning from each other. We all, that's just how we're learning about this, which is kind of unprecedented, like in terms of everyone's kind of learning at the same time. It's kind of even the playing field, right? Like everyone's trying to figure out how to best implement tools to make their lives more productive or streamline things. So if when you look at it that way, I think it benefits the organization as a whole much more greatly. So it's so awesome that y'all are doing that. I love that. And fun too, right? Which is important.
It's fun, and it took, maybe 5 minutes a day for each prompt. So it's, we're working to meet learners where they're at,
Right.
offer more bite size, in the moment, agile learning, and we've got longer programs, on occasion as well, but we've really instituted more of those experimentation kind of programs that hopefully will build curiosity,
Mhm.
and which is, I think, essential for all of us now and moving forward. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of technology, what role does technology play in your programs, and how do you leverage tools and platforms to kind of enhance the learning experiences, especially across such a massive global organization?
Yeah, it's I think that we are working to strike the balance in terms of offerings that are based on technology and synchronous offerings that are sometimes done through technology, and other times are done in person. So we do have content libraries. We do have learning that we have designed and created as well, that is available online in the flow of work at a moment's notice. And I, as I reflect on this, I think about the um, last several years, 5 years or so, and what the pandemic taught us in terms of what we can leverage technology for.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of speculation around whether or not we would ever go back to in-person learning. There are some who wondered about that. Um, but I think what we found is the balance is important, and different learner needs are important to take into account as well. But there is no lack of readily available programs that are available, again, synchronously, so that we all come together online to do a learning lab, to participate in a course, as well as in the moment, just in time. And it could be a course, or it could be a knowledge article. It could be some, tool that is available that we consider also part of our learning program.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, it did kind of shift the just what you said there, just echoing that. It shifted the mindset, right? Where it was like, oh, maybe we can find something to solutionize this that we weren't thinking of. When you're forced to do it, it totally changes the way that you approach problems moving forward, which is really cool.
And we learned a lot through that. I mean, we learned a
Yeah.
lot of how to leverage the tools, how to conduct better learning online. All of the tools that are available to us. I don't know that we would have um, be as sophisticated in terms of how to take advantage of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of, expanding upon that question, what were some of the other, from your perspective, big takeaways from the past year, kind of emerging in the aftermath of COVID, to learning and development as a whole?
Yeah, I think the um, instilling a learning culture, the importance of that.
Yes.
Um, Technology and change is just continuing to grow and require us to be as adaptable as possible. And so making learning seamless, but also embedded in everything that we do, making that a foundational expectation. Gone are the days when someone might have come into a company with a degree or a set of skills and have an expectation that, their learning is done. It is constant. So I think that's a big piece of what we know today and the foundation that we're building from. I think the other thing that I'll say is going back to those human capabilities. Technology is really, really important, but as much are the basic human capabilities of relationship management, communication skills. All of those that have been around for a really long time, but continue to be essential to success.
Absolutely. And it's funny because that comes up more and more like it on this podcast where which I love. It's like, yes, all the cool AI, all the cool tech, but what we're really seeing is how important like actual human capabilities is, actual human connection is, and how important maybe now more so than ever it is for as we move into these next years with the rapid advancement of technology and AI and the like. Um, Amy, to close on a positive note, what would be the best piece of advice that you could pass along to someone just starting out on their journey that you wish maybe someone had told you when you were starting out on yours?
Yeah, I would say get curious, be ready to experiment, and know that change is coming.
I love that. I love that. What a great, get curious and, stay curious, right? Get curious and stay curious. Like that would be such a note to leave everyone with. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here on the NovoEd Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. This was fun. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NovoEd Talks.